Hey Citylight, John here with a quick Bible reading plan video. If you stayed on track with us, we are in Leviticus. Now this can definitely be a hard book to read and even harder to understand, but what you need to know is that this book is really all about God's holiness. So throughout the book, we see contrasting themes of God's holiness and people's sin, purity and impurity, cleanliness and uncleanliness, and life and death. Really what it's trying to show us is that God's holiness should impact and affect every area of our lives. Now, at the beginning of the book, we read about 5 different kinds of offerings that we end up seeing throughout the book, and that is the burnt offering, the grain, the peace, the sin, and the guilt offering. Now, each of these have their own specific purposes, but really what they deal with is some aspect of people's sin and restoring fellowship with God. Then in Leviticus 16, we read about the Day of Atonement. Now, this is a sin offering that took place once a year. The priest would take 2 goats. One would be sacrificed to appease the wrath of God. And then the second goat, the priest would symbolically confess the sin of the people onto the goat, and then it would be released into the wilderness to symbolically represent the removal of sin. Now, however, we know in the New Testament it teaches us that Jesus is the only one whose death appeases the wrath of God and removes sin from people. Specifically in Hebrews chapter 10, we read that Jesus has made one sacrifice for all time, and this is the sacrifice that makes us clean, it makes us holy, it restores fellowship with God. So as you keep reading Leviticus, I would continue to encourage you to consider the seriousness of sin and its consequences, but more importantly, consider the good news that Jesus has come to be that one sacrifice for all time, who truly appeases the wrath of God, atones for sins, and restores us into right relationship with God. So I pray that as you continue to read, that your love for God and His Word would continue to deepen, and that it would actually cause you to worship Him all the more. So I hope this helps. If you've got any more questions, you can submit them at citylightomaha.org/Bible, and we can answer them here. Thanks.